Okay, so we are live in the Facebook group and we're recording for future prosperity. Hey everyone, Debbie Morrow here, founder of Real Estate Agent Referral Network and Marketing Tips. And I have with me today Matt Milia with appointments today, right?
You got
And
it.
so I was just chatting with Matt about a really cool new AI technology he has that really allows you to be so much more effective on the phone because you're only calling people who are going to actually answer the phone. That's super cool. What a great way to make the best use of your time. You know, as realtors, we're all busy and nobody has time. Nobody can afford to waste time calling all the people that aren't going to answer. So, so tell me, Matt, who is the perfect candidate for what you do?
Yeah, thank you. And thank you so much again for having me on and in the group. And I'm super excited to work with you and of course anyone else that's open to a conversation. And really the perfect candidate would be someone who has a database full of leads. Let's say they've got, aged leads, or maybe they've got leads, seller leads, buyer leads, whatever leads you have. If you have leads in your database, you haven't had a chance to call through them, haven't had a chance to conversate with them, maybe you're just sending them some drip communication and you just haven't had that personal interaction. This is the absolute perfect system for someone like that. Someone who just would rather go out, meet people face to face on appointments, opposed to sitting there and hammering out the phone for hours. We'll basically do all the dirty work and we'll clean up the leads, make sure that you're only talking with folks that are going to pick up the phone and talk to you so that you can make the best of your time.
Right. And so tell me, how is this different from what we typically think of as skip tracing?
That's a great question. So skip tracing is where you go in and you essentially find a name and a phone number and you say, okay, hey, this is the best person. And here's a relative or two that are associated with that person. This goes way deeper than that. What we're doing is we essentially have our AI will plug in to about 1,000 different pieces of software. And in fact, we drill all the way down to the carrier level. So T-Mobile, Verizon, AT&T, Sprint, we're able to look and see who is registered to the telephone, who's going to pick up the phone when we call them. And once we have all that information, our AI will return the results saying, hey, these are the people that you should call. And that's what really makes it different. We're not just looking up a name and a phone number. We're actually, yes, we're looking up a name and a phone number. That's the first step, but that's the first of many steps in a sequence that will allow us to make sure that anytime you make a phone call, that person's going to pick up and you're going to have a conversation with them. That's what really makes it different.
And so, like, is this something that should scare me because, oh, you're talking to Verizon and like, how much information are you getting from them? Like, how does that
Yeah.
work?
It's very basic, so I'm glad you brought that up. It's such a like it really all it's showing is that the phone is registered to that person and they're utilizing the phone, making calls a certain percentage of time. And frankly, it doesn't even give us the specific times. It just says, hey, this is the amount of, like, it gives us a score based on how often that person is making calls, but it's not pulling up anything that is private data or information. It's just saying this person uses this phone, this is how often they use it, and then it's scoring it. Now, the one thing that I also wanted to add on this is that once the leads are scored, we have a team that will call in the background. Now, the team doesn't call saying, oh, hey, I'm calling on behalf of Debbie or anything like that. Our team just says, hey, we're doing a quick survey call in the area. I'm curious if I could save you money on your electricity bill every month. Would you consider going solar? That's just an example. We have a couple different surveys that we ask, but the goal for us, we don't care if they want to go solar. We don't care if they tell us, leave me alone and they hang up, whatever the case may be. We identify that the person gave us their name and that we have the right phone number. We immediately say, okay, that's a top that's a top tier lead. That's who you want to call. We verified it, and then we bring the list back to the agent, all nice and clean, and you know exactly who to call and where to spend your time.
Excellent. And so, like how many of these leads should I give you? Like what makes sense if I have a list of, you know, 100, or if I have a list of 10,000? Like when does it make sense?
It's a great question. So I always recommend the minimum number I'm making up words, to have the max amount of effectiveness is about 500 is the minimum. And then I would say 1,000. I wouldn't go above 1,000, and I'm going to explain why. Now, eventually, absolutely, you can give us 100,000 leads if you want. But the reason why I would start small is because we want to know upfront, what is the quality of your leads? Are they good leads? Are they, because of course, if the leads are really bad, and unfortunately, sometimes that happens where we'll get, a lead provider will come in and they'll give you these leads where no one ever picks up the phone, and they're really old leads. So I always tell everybody, look, start off with about 500 leads, maybe go up to 1,000 if you know they're good leads. And with that, we're usually identifying about 10% of the list is going to pick up the phone within a couple of call attempts or less. And that's really the best way to do it. You don't want to give too many, because then if the leads are not good, then you invested in this and you didn't see the return, you just didn't see the results. And the goal for us is to make sure that we're scoring the leads appropriately. We're letting you know exactly where they're at, and that way you know who to call and where to spend your time.
I could also see a situation where if I gave you too many leads, it might take me too long to get through the list to call them. And by the time I've called the last one, then what was a good lead is now not a good lead anymore. So I can
Right.
see, yeah, how that could be. Okay, so what if I don't have leads? Like, I don't have any of those stale leads. Like, is that something that you can provide for me also?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so glad you brought that up. So I have a couple of different organizations that we work with. And of course, once we set up a time, if you're watching this, if you set up a time to jump on a quick Zoom call, I'll show you everything. We'll walk through everything you have going on. And what I'll do is I'll help you find leads that are distressed seller leads, likely to sell leads. I'll help you find folks that are they're out of state owners that might be looking to sell. I'll help you find those leads, and then we'll score them together. So that way you've got the ability to find leads that have a strategic need to want to buy or sell a home. And ultimately it's going to help you get more opportunities, because the more conversations, the more potential opportunity for appointments, and the more appointments, the more closings.
So it sounds to me, from what you just said, it sounds to me like if I want to focus on buyers, we could do that. If I want to focus on sellers, we could do that. That you can really hone in on one specific type of lead that I want to do. Maybe I only want to go after FISBOs or whatever, and you
Right.
could find a way to do that, right? Okay, cool.
Absolutely. Yep. And then, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good. So the one thing you mentioned, if somebody wants to get on the phone with you or whatever, when we're done with this, you'll go into the group and comment with how they can get a hold of you. I know that you have a landing page that has a scheduling link on it, right?
Yep. And I do have that. It's called closerstoday.com, and I'll make sure I comment on there as well. And then, of course, I did want to just throw this out there as well, Debbie, for anyone that is, let's say you have these leads, but you say to yourself, I don't have the capacity or the manpower to call them. We can also discuss what that looks like as well, if you want us to help you call those leads.
Okay. So if and I don't know the answer to this question. We didn't talk about this.
Sure.
So if I have this phone here that's really, really heavy and I don't like to pick it up, you can take care of all of that, right?
Yes. And I do want to just clarify, so that for everyone that's watching, The reason why we started this, we really didn't have the intention of selling this or offering it up to the public. Our only intention, agents, business owners, service-based businesses, if you've got leads, it really doesn't matter if you're in whatever niche or industry you're in, we'll call the leads to set appointments. Now, of course, we always ask that someone has a script, some framework. Now, if it's something I'm totally uncommon with, I probably won't jump into that niche. But as far as our specialty, like I'm a real estate agent myself, so that's really our specialty. That's what we know the insides and outs of. But when we rolled out this technology, it was because we had at the time a couple hundred real estate clients all at once. We had lots and lots of leads that they were giving to us, but the biggest challenge, we couldn't get these people to answer the phone. September of 2019 was a really rough time. It wasn't because COVID came out a few months later. It was the spam blocker that came out. Once numbers got marked as spam, our dial to conversation rate went from, we were doing like 10, 11, 12%. So 1 out of every 10 conversations, or 1 out of every 10 phone calls, we're having a conversation. And it got to a point where it was 1 out of every 100 phone calls we're having a conversation before we rolled everything out, which really made it challenging. And we knew we had to solve for this. So our goal was to try to solve it internally for our callers. And now we said, well, you know what, this is working so well, we're just going to roll this out to the general public. So I wanted to add that in there. I thought that was important.
Yeah, it is. And you know what else is really important that you just said is that you're a real estate agent. So
yes,
you get it, and you know what questions to ask. So yeah, that's super cool. Okay, so is there anything that I didn't ask you that you think people should know?
So sometimes I nerd out on the numbers. I'll try not to do that. What I will say though, because a lot of people want to know, well, what should I expect from this? If I give you 1,000 leads, what is that going to look like? So I tell everybody, the goal of this is very simple. We want to isolate and identify folks that are going to pick up the phone when you call them. It's as simple as that. Now, if you got a bunch of really, really terrible leads, I can't help you with that. But if you have a database that's overflowing with leads, and maybe you're not in a place right now that you can hire somebody on full time to make the calls, maybe you're in a place where you don't have the time or the desire, or, Debbie, like you said, the phone weighs a little too much to pick it up to your ear consistently. Totally understandable. We have solutions for just about anybody and everybody. The only thing is you got to have leads in your database. I always recommend at a minimum 500 leads. If you have less than that, I'm not saying it won't work with less than that, but it's just not as effective. On average, we're seeing 10 to 20% of your leads that you have are callable right off the bat. So if you do the math on that, let's say it's 1,000 leads, 10%, that means 100 people are going to be likely to pick up the phone. If we can get you appointments, or if you can get appointments after those leads are taken care of, if you can get appointments with those 100 leads, let's say you pull 4 or 5 appointments, you close one deal, you're practically 10, 15, 20xing your return on investment, depending on how many, how large your average sales price is in your market. So there is a lot of opportunities here with that. And I just want to point that part out.
Excellent. Wonderful. Okay. Well, I just want to thank you for taking the time today to hang out with me and let everybody know exactly what you've got going on and how you can help them in the group. That's always my goal, is to help the agents in our group as much as possible. I want to debunk that fail rate that we have for realtors, and our group is going to be strong, and we're not going to lose anybody. No man left behind, or no realtor left behind, whatever. So anyhow, I appreciate you and all that you're doing to help make that happen. So
my pleasure. I appreciate you.
Yeah. So everybody reach out to Matt if you have any questions and want to, you have an old list you need to get cleaned up and know who to call. Reach out to Matt and he can help you take care of that. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
You too.